Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, Adi. Thank you, friends. As Rabbi Mark said, it's really your presence that supports our collective practice. Each of you showing up today is supporting all of us. So I want to invite you to take a breath, and if it's comfortable, to close your eyes or to gaze softly down, just in order to turn the gaze inward. And to take a deep breath together. And another one like this. A deep in-breath. And a long, generous out-breath. Allowing all the system to calm down naturally, just with the breath. And allowing ourselves to come back to our source, to come back to our center, just through the breath. And coming back home to our bodies. Each of us have busy lives. And we live in cultures today where we're very occupied with words, text messages and emails and all that. And this is just a wonderful opportunity for 1 hour in the middle of your day, for half an hour of meditation, to close your eyes and to give yourself the gift of space. And to receive the gift of space from the collective energy. Do you feel already a difference in your system? Just by this simple gesture that you've done of closing your eyes and taking a deep breath. Just that. So recentering is something that we can really do ourselves in a split second, just by doing that. Taking a moment to feel what it does to the system, to the body, to the mind, to the emotional state, to our experiencing our own aliveness in this moment today. And it's so powerful, and it's so soft. So I want to talk about softness today, because softness really has been really at the core of my practice. And I find that softness is at the core of Parashat Chukat, which we're about to read this Shabbat. So we're going to read about this together. But before we do so, I want to invite you for a couple of more breaths to experience what is it like to soften right now. If the eyes are closed, to soften the muscles of the eyes, to soften the jaw, the shoulders, to soften the belly, no matter what our external life conditions look like today. What happens if we soften? And so Parashat Rukat, we're going to see just a pasuk, just a verse. Pasuk 12, Yud Bet, chapter 20 of Bamidbar, where God, oh, and the text is here in the chat, and maybe I can share my screen, or maybe, Adi, do you want to share it, or do you want me to share my screen? Oh, thank you. Thank you. So this pasuk, this verse, shows us the response of God to what Moshe did when he struck the rock. Just to give you a little context again, the story, and it's not about the story, it's about the teaching, but the Torah, the Chumash loves to teach in parables, just like the Hasidic masters. And so the story goes that Bnei Israel in the desert are thirsty, and they start again to complain. And Moshe has to do something, and God tells him, speak to the rock, and water will come out of the rock. And as you know how the story goes, Moshe doesn't speak to the rock. He strikes the rock twice with his staff. And the response of God is to say, since you did not have faith in me, you won't get to the land. And I just want to focus on this right now, on the rational, on what God is trying to teach to Moshe. Lo hemantem bi. You didn't have faith, emunah, in me. Leakdisheni, to sanctify me. Le'enei bnei Israel. Sanctify me in front of them. And I really want to leave aside here the discussion about the harshness or not of the punishment, but only to focus on what is the problem here according to God. The problem was not disobedience. It was not a rebellion on the part of Moshe. It was a lack of faith. It was a lack of faith. And Rashi actually, using the Midrash Tanchuma and the Midrash Bamidbar, I'm going to try to go down. Yes, thank you so much. Rashi is showing us that according to these two midrashim, there's something really interesting, that there is a parallel that's being drawn between this lack of faith that Moshe and Aaron are showing and the lack of faith that the meraglim, that the spies, showed in Parashat Shelach Lecha that we saw a couple of weeks ago. And the Midrash says like this, that it shouldn't have to be said about them, Ke'avon shar dor hamidbar, that they're like, that they did like the sin avon of the rest of the generation of the desert. And yet they did. And I find that there is something really touching actually here about the humanity of Moshe and Aaron, that yes, they did just the same. They too had a moment of weakness and of lack of faith. They too had a moment where maybe they didn't believe that it was possible to just speak to a rock and that it would be enough. And that's really what's interesting for me here, is actually to welcome the weakness of Moshe and Aaron, and to welcome our own weakness, to see it as a mirror for ourselves. These moments in life where we don't trust enough, and instead of speaking softly, we act out, and maybe we strike with our own staff, right? Maybe we have gestures that can become gestures of violence and acting out, just because we don't trust enough. And Maimonides, the Rambam, on the Shmonu Prakim, is adding something which to me is another element of softness. Can we go down a little bit, please? In the source. Thank you so much. Just to have the whole, oops. Thank you. Yeah, just the Maimonides source. And it's cut into two, like we have the beginning here and the end after, yeah. Thank you so much, Adi. But basically, what he's saying, thank you so much. What he's saying here is that basically what Moshe was missing, and that's all I need to read actually here, is Moshe was missing Hamidot hasavlanut, these qualities, these character traits, savlanut, patience. Moshe was was lacking patience here. So that's the Rambam's interpretation of Moshe's attitude, not so much a lack of faith, but a lack of patience. And both bring us back to this question of softness. Because in order to be patient, we need also to kind of relinquish control, to relinquish the temptation of control, of having things happen faster, in our own time, the way we want. And it's maybe one of the most difficult things, isn't it? To be patient and to have faith. And they actually really go together. Thank you so much. We can stop the screen sharing now. Thank you. Let's just take a breath with that. Just as Rabbi Mark said so beautifully at the opening of the seat, quoting our friend Rabbi Sam Fainsmith, about kind of dropping a thought, an intention, a kavanah in the pool of our mind, in the water of our mind, and see what happens, see the ripples. I want to drop a kavanah for us for meditation today. A meditation that's going to look like hibonenut, kind of hibonenut as self-inquiry here, contemplation, self-contemplation, self-inquiry. And this kavanah is a question. And this question is, can we think of places in our lives where it's difficult for us to believe that water can come out of a rock? It seems unbelievable. It seems too good to be true. And we just can't believe it enough to trust that just speaking softly will be enough. Or that because there is worry, there are many life situations that bring tension, uncertainty, jobs, apartments, relationships, children, health. We all have, I'm sure, all of us here on this Zoom today, a situation in our life at the present moment that is bringing a lot of uncertainty and triggering a lot of worry, right? And just to inquire, just to look at what would be our natural response, what is our tendency there? And what would happen if we met that with emunah, with some kind of trust? Which doesn't mean not having to act in reality, right? But just kind of relinquishing the illusion of control in the bigger picture and seeing what happens if we can be patient and have the courage to trust. So let's sit, friends. Let's sit. Let's take a deep breath together. A beautiful out breath. Taking a moment if you need to adjust your position. I'm going to sit for a little under 10 minutes. So making sure your body is very comfortable, very at ease. Starting with the softness of the body as the teacher for the softness of our mind and our soul. So we learn in a way from the outside in. We learn from our body, from making our bodies soft. The shoulders soft. and the jaw and the belly, and welcoming with softness any point of resistance, any point of tension, welcoming with softness what isn't soft within us. Connecting to an anchor in our body. It can be our breath, it can be the physical touch of our body on the surface where we're sitting, so that we can be anchored like a rock in this place, in this moment, and not drift left and right with our thoughts, but to the contrary, let them pass through us, just like water in a river passes above the rocks at the bottom of the river. To let them pass through us and to come back to our rock, to our breath. And to do that 1,000 times if need be during this sit, every time we realize we were drifting away, with the current of thoughts, just coming back to the body, to the here, to the now. Using the softness of the breath to be our rock, to keep us centered, anchored in the present. And can we come back to full presence for the last minute of our sit? And can we craft in our heart our own prayer for softness? And if we want strength in our emunah, in our faith, can we connect to these words, the first words we say in the morning when we remind ourselves, Haba emunatecha, that God's emunah is great. That before we have to work to strengthen our emunah, we can start by receiving the one that's placed in us. That is a great source. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of nourishment for our own emunah. Let's take a deep breath and a beautiful breath out. Let's get ready to say Kaddish with Rabbi Mark. Mark, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mira. I'd like to invite everyone here to extend that faithfulness to those of us who are in mourning, observing a yard site, or carrying any grief, who are invited to join me in Mourner's Kaddish to seal our practice today. And if you have a name or a name of anyone who you're holding in your heart today you'd like to share, you can do that in the chat box now or after we recite Kaddish, and I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Join me. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemerabah,
Amen.
Yama Divra, Kirte, Yamlich Machute, B'chayechon V'yamechon, B'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, B'chalav Yizman Karim V'imru, Amen. Ishmei Rabba V'Ram Olameh, Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitmam V'Yinaseh, Yitzhadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shnei Kedusha V'Richu, Ha'elam Mikol Birchatat Shirata, Shush B'chata Nechama Amran Ba'alma V'Imru, Amen. Hey Shlama Rabba L'Chaim Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Imru, Amen.
Ose shalom
Huya Shalom Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Imru,
Amen.
Amen. Friends, thank you so much for joining us today, as always, and for creating this beautiful circle of practice. Thanks to Mira, Neshama, Niculescu, our teacher for today, and to Adi Stein for holding our space together with skill and grace. And of course, thank you to Linda Blackman and Pat Hellman for sponsoring and supporting our practice today in memory of their beloved friends, Nan Strauss and Helen Schneider. May their memories be a blessing always for you and for those whose lives they touched. Friends, you're invited to stay on as always for a few minutes to stay with the practice, stay with the themes, and bring it into the rest of our day and hopefully into the rest of our lives. Just a reminder, thanks to Adi for putting the link to, I think, the course that you're teaching now, Mira, on an embodied approach to Pirkei Avot, and the half-day retreat that will take place this Sunday. And also a reminder, of course, for people, if you haven't already registered, to join us on Monday night for our evening of gratitude. For those who are leaving, many blessings. May you stay safe and well. We hope to see you tomorrow to sit into Shabbat together. And for those who are staying on, if you have a question about today's teaching, please put it in the chat box and we'll try to keep an eye on that as well. Mira, I went to a camp called Camp Paradox, believe it or not. And I am drawn to the spiritual power of paradoxes. And that's what came up for me with this wonderful teaching. I also like to try to briefly, as concisely as possible, kind of distill the teaching. So here's what I heard. And here's the paradox I heard, is that in the parasha, which is this story is just so poignant, painful, powerful, amazing, really, that God says, the issue here really is faith and sanctification, bringing holiness into the world, manifesting holiness. And unfortunately, that didn't happen in this case. So there are some limits about how far you can go unless you are able to manifest this quality of keeping faith. And then, as you put, Rambam describes that faithfulness as synonymous or connected to the midah of sablanut, which, as you said, is usually translated as patience, but literally means, comes from that shoresh, samach vet lamed, about, holding, about being able to hold something. So here's the paradox I heard, is that, Moshe couldn't hold it together. Someone at the beginning, put their kavanah as, may I be blessed to hold it together. And he couldn't hold it together. He lost it, and on our own, they lost it, and whatever means it. And we lose it all the time, from big outbursts to little ones where I just say, I'm trying to hold my kavanah, but I lost it. Or I'm trying to keep my focus, but I lost it. So they lose it. And as you said, there's something about, there's a tension between our capacity to trust and to let go of our instinct to control, and our instinct to control, which is that kind of constriction. And you were, I think, equating trust, right, and faithfulness and sablanut with softness, being able to be soft. So paradox, I heard, is that you would think that to hold something and to hold it together, you would need strength and tightness. I'm going to hold this, I'm going to stay with this. The paradox is that actually we can stay with it better if we're able to be softer. So I want to see, first of all, if I heard that right. Yes?
Yes, I just want to say I lost you at the beginning.
Okay, that's okay.
Twice. Yeah. No, that's fine. It's just internet isn't stable, so I hope we're going to be okay. Okay. Yes, truth really, really works through paradoxes. Every kind of truth. And so here's the paradox, yes, that it takes a lot of strength to be soft. And it takes a lot of softness to be able to be strong. And so here, for instance, if Moshe and Aaron had been strong enough to have faith, they could have been softer in their attitude. And that's what I wanted to highlight. Each of us, and by the way, if I kind of translate it in terms of more contemporary discourses on behavior and emotional intelligence, like nonviolent communication, it takes a lot of strength, inner strength, and centeredness. It takes being a rock to be able to communicate with softness and with kindness. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it totally does. It totally does. And in terms of the practice, in terms of how we experience this in meditation, there's some, I don't know, like maybe we can speak to this, that we are, we set an intention, right? We set an intention, and we know we're going to drift away from the intention. And then we catch ourselves, we wake up, and we come back. And that's basically rinse and repeat. That's our practice, right? And it's a combination of, it seems to me, and I would love to hear what you say about this, it seems to me there's a combination of effort and effortlessness, of letting go of effort and trusting that will happen. And so I would love to hear you speak about the effort that's involved in meditation, because I think a lot of us, myself included, often we wind up blaming ourselves and say like, oh, I should have been able to catch myself. I should have been able to bring myself back. But for example, say like, if I trust that when I drift away, I am going to be woken up and I will come back, I actually am less likely to drift away than if I am trying to hold my focus, hold it, then I drift away. That's a question. That's kind of that's a hypothetical question there.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question, and actually, it's a strong critique I have against some meditation books, and it's most. I'll be honest. Like it's a judgment. I'm going to be judgmental, but like Aryeh Kaplan's Jewish meditation, he defines meditation as controlling our thoughts.
Who's this?
Aryeh Kaplan, Zichrono Livracha.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So his definition of Jewish meditation is controlled thinking. Mm-hmm. And to me, the second you come to meditation thinking I'm going to control your thoughts, thoughts, you're setting yourself up for failure, exactly for the reason you said. If you come efforting and trying to control what's going on, you're going to lose it. You're going to lose it so much faster. We can't control our thoughts. We can't. What we can do is stay still. Mm-hmm. It's a bit, so I'll go back to this image of the lake, right, that we use about meditation a lot, that there is a lake, and if we keep throwing stones and making movements and stuff, the water is very blurry, right? And if we stop moving, just stop moving. You can't say, I'm going to prevent that wave. I'm going to hold on so tight, the wave is not going to, no. You can't control the wave. What you can do is stop moving. And when you start moving, slowly, things calm down by themselves. So thoughts actually end up slowing down, right? This is what happens. So it's the opposite of control.
Right.
So I wanted to say that I have a lot of respect for his work, and I think his book and his books have been very important and very helpful. And I do think that the definition of meditation is not helpful. So basically, to get out of that critique and to go back to what you were sharing, the effortless effort, and I also have a kind of analogy with yoga for those of us here who do yoga. When I come to yoga class, I really come with this kind of, I know my body is going to make efforts and use strength, but I go there with an approach really of effortless effort, and then things are so much deeper and so much more fluid. And this is something that all of us can apply in work. Have you noticed that sometimes when you come and you're going to, let's say you have a huge work task, right? And you're going to have to give a lot of energy. But if you come there without any tension, without any constriction, without efforting, there is some ease, there is some flow. That doesn't mean you're not going to, make an effort, but the effortless effort, this is art. And just to finish on this, and it's again the truth being composed of paradoxes, the sfirot, right? We have chesed and gvura. Facing each other, and they're a couple because they go together. And oftentimes I feel that in meditation we use them in a way that is reverse and that is less helpful. So we don't use enough gvura to stay still, for instance. We kind of tend to indulge and shift and this and that and scratch the ear. We could use more gvura there, but then we don't use enough chesed with ourselves because we judge ourselves so harshly when we can't stay focused or present. So we have to use a little bit more gvura where we don't use it enough, and a little bit more chesed when we don't use it enough. And that's also another way of effortless effort.
Yeah. Well, so just stay with that, the chesed and gvura, because a lot of people here are familiar with that, with those concepts and those terms. Here, you're really describing the gvura is the effort, at least I'm understanding, is the effort that creates a container that allows for the chesed. In other words, like you were describing with the yoga, it's not that there's no effort involved or intention to use effort, but it's in the service of being able to enter into effortlessness. So the gevura creates the structure. And I was thinking in terms of emunah and bitachon, a faithfulness, at least the way in our rubric with midot, we use the word emunah to connote faithfulness or trustworthiness. So like chesed and gevura, they're a pair. That emunah enables us to have a sense of trust that the God's emunah, as you ended it with moda'ani or moda'ani in the morning, Rabba Munatecha, great is your faithfulness in me, so that I can cultivate my trust. So what I find that's really valuable here, and I hope others would do as well, is understand that like what we're doing here every day is exactly this. We're learning how to cultivate sablanut, patience, forbearance. We're learning how to come face to face with our impatience, our fear about not having control, our fear about not knowing, our fear about not doing it right, and releasing that, step by step by step by step, letting it go. And somebody wrote in the chat, if Moshe can't do this, what hope is there for us, right? So maybe you want to, before we end, say a few words about that, because I know this is a part of Torah that is very, very triggering for a lot of people. Like it triggers a lot of perfectionism. Like, how could God not cut him a break here? Come on, look at what this guy has done and what he's dealt with. Now you're going to like, I don't see it that way, but that's for another time. What do you think? What would you say about that?
I'm going to try to say that on one foot because it's very rich.
Yeah.
First of all, I do think that Moshe here is a mirror for us. And I think that's what the Midrash Rabbah is telling us by comparing Moshe to the Meraglim, to the spies, to the generation of the desert, reminding ourselves that actually it's not us who are like Moshe, it's Moshe who is like us. He's embodying human fragility and human vulnerability. And I think it's very important to remember the humanity of our leaders. And then why God is so harsh with Moshe, then it's going to be the opposite side of the same coin. I thought about it actually today, and for the first time it made more sense to me. I'm really going to try in one leg, and I'm sorry it's very succinct, but it may sound harsh what I'm going to say, but when you're a leader, you have an extra responsibility. And there are some weaknesses that you can't act out because otherwise it's too dangerous. And if he lacked emunah there and he acted out and he was impulsive, there is something there that's dangerous for him to lead people the other way. That's just a surface explanation, because then you have a deeper mystical explanation that actually the one who takes us out of Egypt cannot be the one who takes us in the land. So it's like the excuse,
Right.
But there is some. It's like Moshe at the same time is like us, and so he's here to teach us about ourselves. And at the and on the other hand, Moshe is not like us, and because he's not like us, God's judgment is harsher with him because he can't afford to have these types of weaknesses that we can, because he's a leader. So in terms of like the figure, in terms of the role model, there are mistakes that leaders can't make. They actually can't afford. Be'enei Am Israel, like in public also, because it's all about the public, being as a leader. Right. So, this is really on one foot, and I wish we had an hour to talk about it.
That was great. Me too, but that was pretty good for Al Regel Echad. So, all right, we are at time. Mira, thank you as always. It's just really always a delight to get to practice with you. I just want to compliment you because I know many people here really, you're especially beloved to this community, and a lot of appreciation for what you have brought to all these people, over all these many months. And I'm not quite sure how you do all that you seem to do.
Effortless effort.
But it's really...
And it's true, by the way.
There's the answer. I get it. So anyway, I hope people will avail themselves of the many opportunities they have to learn and practice with you. And tomorrow will be led by Marita Anderson. Really looking forward to being with Marita to sit into Shabbat. She'll be joining us from Atlanta, and we hope to see you tomorrow. And Mira, hope to see you again. We'll see you again soon, I know. Be well in Yerushalayim, and Shabbat Shalom to you. Early Shabbat Shalom to everyone who we will not see tomorrow. And thanks to Adi again, Linda and Pat. Okay. Many blessings, everyone.
Thank you.